How to calculate your cash-on-cash return for rental real estate. That's exactly what we're going to discuss in this video, so let's get into it right away. But before we do, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me, and let's get right into this. So if you're thinking about investing in real estate, or maybe you already do invest in real estate, as you know, you certainly want to know your cash-on-cash return. Some people call it return on investment. No matter what you call it, you've got to know the numbers when you get into these investments or before you even make an offer a lot of times, because here's the thing. If you get into a property without running the numbers, you may get into something that may not even have a very good return, or you may get into an absolute gold mine and realize, hey, this thing is gravy. I want to get in on this thing right away. So it's a very easy calculation. We can run through it, but you've got to know the numbers when investing, especially when it comes to real estate, right? Just like any investment, you got to run the numbers and know where you're sitting. You want to know what is going to be your return on your investment, right? How much are you going to get paid for what you are putting in? All right, let's run through this. So in this example, we're going to be talking about a single family home with a purchase price of $200,000. For easy math purposes, and just for the simplicity of this example, let's just use a single family home. Now, of course, if you're working with apartment buildings or things like that, multifamily, of course, it's going to be a little bit more intricate as far as the calculations go, but essentially it all comes down to the exact same thing. What is your return on your investment? All right, so in this situation, we're talking about a single family home, $200,000 purchase price with 20% down being $40,000 that you put down into the house, right? All right, so let's run the numbers. You have $40,000 that you're putting down as a down payment. Now, here's what we want to do. Let's say that you are going to rent this property for $1,500 per month. You are going to have expenses of $1,000. I'm just round numbers for easy math purposes. $1,000 of expenses, including everything that you would maybe have expenses for. Maintenance, repairs, management, mortgage, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, vacancy calculations. I mean, basically every expense that you would have going into this property, it's going to cost you $1,000 per month. Therefore, you have $500 per month of positive cash flow. Pretty nice, right? So you take that $500 of positive cash flow that you are theorizing that would come from this property, assuming you haven't bought it yet, right? You're just running the numbers, a practical monthly rental price that you can get for that property. So you take your $500 of positive cash flow that you would be receiving on a monthly basis. Remember, the positive cash flow is cash you get to stick right in your pocket, right? Don't give it to anybody else. You keep that for yourself. Now, here's what you do. Take that $500 of positive cash flow, multiply it by 12. 12 months in a year brings you up to $6,000 of positive cash flow throughout the course of the year as a result of this one property, right? Assuming that there's no major big repairs, anything like that. We can get into all that in a different video. We're just running the calculations, is figuring out what is your return on investment. All right, so you have your $6,000 of positive cash flow for the entire year. Now you take your $6,000 divided by the $40,000 that you put into the property. So $6,000 divided by $40,000 is going to give you a decimal. Okay, so it's going to be 0.15. If you want, you can look at it that way, or you can multiply it by 100, which will give you 15. That is your cash-on-cash return. It is a 15% cash-on-cash return. That is a really nice return for a single-family home. Now, again, it totally depends on the region that you're in and a lot of the demographics, like the city. Are you in the suburbs? Like, what kind of property is it? There's a lot of different factors that comes into your rate of return, your cash-on-cash return for the most part when it comes to single-family dwellings. But for the most part, a 15% return on a single-family home is a really nice return. I would say a more average return on a single-family home is probably anywhere between probably about 5% and maybe 10, 11, maybe 12% on the higher end. 15% would be very, very good for the most part. Now, again, some regions around the country, you might only be able to get 1, 2, 3% maybe in some regions like California. I mean, I have not invested in California. I do not know much about that, but I have looked at California just because I'm interested. And the returns over there are not that great, right? Because prices are so incredibly high. You know what I mean? So But in some areas, you can get some pretty nice rates of return. So again, it's a very easy calculation. Basically, just take your positive cash flow, multiply it by 12 months out of the year, take that number and divide it by the amount of cash that you're putting down into the property, and that'll give you that decimal. You can look at it as a decimal and just realize, okay, that's, in this case, it was 0.15, which is 15%. Or if you want to look at it, you can multiply it by 100, and there you go. It'll give you your actual cash on cash return. You know what I mean? So there you go. That is a calculation, super easy. But as you know, getting into rental real estate investing or real estate investing as a whole, you've got to run the numbers on every single property. And what you want to probably do when you're running the numbers before you even make an offer, run the numbers and, be a little bit generous with the numbers as far as your expenses. If you think the maintenance is going to be, $100 a month, maybe bump it up to $150. Be a little bit generous with this, because here's the thing. If the numbers work and you are, let me back up for a second. Let's just say, for example, you run all the expenses and it comes out to $800 and you think, oh, that's great. $800, that's running this property really lean. I would say, bump that up to like $900, maybe $1,000, and say, I anticipate there's maybe going to be $1,000 of expenses on this property every single month. Even though according to your calculations, you may say it's probably only going to be $800, that's the best case scenario. It'd be tough to get into a situation where you're running the calculations at $800 a month, you run all of your cash flow, your cash on cash return, it's looking really sweet, and all of a sudden you get into the deal, you close on the property, and all of a sudden you realize, sorry, false alarm, my expenses actually are $1,000 a month. Well, there you go. It has just skewed all of your calculations and your actual return on investment, right? Your actual cash on cash return. So I would say if you're doing this, run the numbers a little bit more, in the worst case scenario, as in maintenance is maybe a little bit higher, management's a little bit higher, maybe build in some repairs that you are unexpecting. You know what I mean? Now, of course, you don't want to, attract repairs, right? But you kind of got to plan for all this stuff, because things do happen. In the middle of winter, by all means, you're going to get a call from one of your tenants at some point saying, hey, my house is only 50 degrees, my furnace is not working. So you've got to kind of plan for those repairs. Now, a lot of times things like that can actually be repaired. You don't actually need to replace a full-fledged furnace repair or a full-fledged furnace replace, things like that. But for the most part, you got to run the numbers and just know where you're sitting. And again, too, maybe you anticipate $1,000 of expenses every month. Maybe, best case scenario, you could get by with $900. Run the numbers in many different situations. Run the numbers as maybe $900 of expenses per month, $1,000 of expenses per month, $1,200 of expenses per month, things like this. Run the numbers in all kinds of different ways. If it works with $1,200 of expenses each month and you're cash flowing $300 per month, if the numbers work that way according to what you're looking for in your investment, then there you go, right? Always calculate. I guess this is what I would do. Calculate your numbers in the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, if the numbers still work out, it's probably a pretty good investment, right? So again, this is in regards to a single family. Now, if you're looking at apartment deals, it's going to be a totally different game. There's a lot more that goes into it. You have a lot more doors that you need to calculate for. Of course, your cash flow is going to be totally different. Your expenses are going to be very, very different, right? But either way, you're just dealing with bigger numbers. That's all it comes down to, is just much bigger numbers. Probably more commas. Hopefully there's more commas within your equations, things like that. But for the most part, same calculations, just more numbers to run through the calculator, right? So anyway, hope this lays it all out for you. I hope this helps you out. I wish you the best with your investing. Seriously, run the numbers. You've got to know everything, just like a business, because that's exactly what rental real estate is. It is a business. You are operating a business, even though most people think rental real estate is not a business. Yeah, it is. Rental real estate is a business. Every single property is its own business. So there you go. Just like any other business, you've got to know your cash flow. What is your margin on your, you have a product, you're selling a product. What is your margin at the end of the month, right? Anyway, hope that helps you out. Enjoy. Make sure to hit that subscribe button right down below the video. Go back and check out some of my other money, investing, real estate, stock, investing type videos that I have here on the channel. Thanks again for your support. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.